mean, because then, I mean, we'll be able to cover items A and item C. So, perfect. All right, well, we'll get cranking. All righty. Well, good afternoon. It is 5:31 PM, June 18th, and we will call the meeting of the Housing Authority of the City of Kyle, Texas to order. Steve, I'll let you do roll call.
Hopper,
Here.
Kaufman,
Present.
Lopez, Salazar.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum.
All right, perfect. All right, first order of business is the approval of the previous meeting minutes from March 27th, 2025. I'll give everybody a moment to review those. All right, do we have a motion?
Move approval.
All righty. And do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Any opposition? Hearing none, the minutes have been approved. The next item of business is citizen comment. It is 5:32, and we will open citizen comment. Hearing none, 5:32, we will close citizen comment. We will not do executive session today. So we have, Steve, you want to do your management report?
Sure. Some general items. The Stryker Partnership closed on April 28th, and $482,098 was placed in the account that we set up for that. The Calterra Capital Partners Partnership is scheduled to close by the end of June, and the Strand Partnership is scheduled to close by mid-July. The annual audit was completed and submitted to HUD. The TML, which is our insurance company that has insured the Housing Authority properties for several years, sent out a notice and stated that when the policy comes up for renewal in late October of this year, that the property insurance is going to have about a 40% increase in premiums. The liability and excess liability coverage will have approximately a 10% increase on each. And so I have reached out to the insurance carrier or agent that I use, and I have them doing some work to see if they can find a better situation. As y'all know, the state of Texas had year after year of hurricanes and storms and freezes and hailstorms and windstorms and whatever, and insurance has just skyrocketed. As an example, on other properties that I managed 6 years ago, I was paying $300 to $350 per unit per year, and now it's up to $1,175 per unit per year, which is about a little better than a 300% increase. And obviously, the same thing's happening with TML and the carriers that they do business with. So we'll see what we can come up with, and I'll give you a report at the next meeting as to what the options are.
Yeah, we've been going higher deductible to keep the premium down.
Well, we can do that too, and that's something that we'll look at. I want to see what this other company comes up with before I make any commitments to TML.
I
We've
will
got
s-
time.
Yeah, on another board I'm on for a condo, they had a rate increase, but at work, we had a 20% rate decrease across our entire schedule for property
By lowering by increasing
by not taking yes for an answer.
oh.
So we just told them we aren't gonna do it. So, but I mean, we'll be in a different spot. We got a smaller book, so.
Well, actually, I've got a master policy that I have 12 properties on, 11 of which are HUD properties. And I got a 5% reduction in the premium when we renewed the policies in February. And so, I'll tell you, there's a big difference between condominiums and HUD properties. The insurance companies don't want to insure HUD properties. They have a misconception of what HUD properties are like. Or maybe they don't, they just don't want them, I don't know.
Yeah.
At any rate, that's it on the general items. On Charles Young Public Housing, we're 100% occupied and have been for, since the last meeting. We've not had any turnover there, which is good.
Good work on that.
And thank you. And we have replaced 17 of the 21 air conditioning units and with complete new systems that have a 12-year warranty on them and a 2-year warranty on labor. And that's excellent warranty coverage. And we'll do the last 4 of those in early July, probably, early to mid-July. We'll get the last 4 of those 21 units done. And then we've had another portfolio management specialist assigned to Charles Young from Public Housing. This is the 4th one in the last 3.5 months. And it, of course, has to do with the people retiring. Actually, they assigned us Brenner Stiles, who was our
Oh, yeah.
original one back when I took over 4.5 years ago. And Brenda's pretty sharp, so I'm glad we got her back. And the guy that they assigned to us about right at the end of March, named Brian Surratt, he got assigned to us, and 2 weeks later, he sent me an email and said he was retiring. So things are tough at all of the various HUD agencies. But we've been, Gloria and I have been working with Brenner on a few things that we need to get taken care of. On Pete Dressen, we're 100% occupied. We've had one move out in the last 3 months, and it stayed vacant long enough to make it ready, and somebody moved right into it from our waiting list. We've been monitoring, as I mentioned to you at the last board meeting, we've been monitoring crime at Pete Dressen. There's a lot more activity there, very little at Charles Young. I got data for the last 2 years, or my manager did, from the Cal Police Department. And what I have seen is there appears to be some drug dealing going on from what little bit of information we can gather. One of the things that I want y'all to consider later in the meeting when I talk about spending some money is to add a camera program called Flock, F-L-O-C-K. The city police department is working with the Flock people, And what Flock does is you put one at each entrance. And every time a car comes in, it takes photos of them or goes out. And they know who's coming in, when they're coming in, how fast they come in and go out. If they're doing, if there's potential for drug deals or stuff like that. It's a good system as long as the city works with it, and they're working with it. And so I want to put a camera at each of the two driveways so that we can see everybody that's going in and going out of there, no matter what time of day or night it is.
Yeah, we use that at Lamar University.
Do you? The same system?
We use Flock.
Okay.
They have it at their entrances. And
Well,
it's
I-
pretty interesting because they say they can capture a license plate
Right.
and then they can put it in that system and they can find that, I think Walmart uses it too. So if they happen to drive by it through a Walmart parking lot, the PD can connect. The car was here, the car's there, and they can connect where the car goes. So it's pretty fascinating and terrifying
At the same time.
at the same time.
But it's very effective. And I at first used it on a property in Tyler, Texas. It was a 100-unit family HUD property. And we put it in, it had one entrance, so all we needed was one camera.
Yeah.
But it was, it cut the crime down by about 85%. Just because once people figured out what was gonna happen, they quit coming. So, have you heard anything good from your police department about it?
About block cameras, yes. We've solved some significant crimes with them. We can detect cars that are stolen, those that have warrants out for their arrest, those that are
Right.
involved in other crimes. And yes, we've gotten some good results.
Yeah, it's a big hit once a year, but I think it'll be worthwhile for us to do it, so. But I'll get into that cost of it more later when I give my other report. I'll be submitting a budget increase package to Southwest Housing Compliance Corporation on August 1st. They'll be sending that, actually, Southwest sends that to me and tells me what HUD's willing to do, and I'll look at it and either decide it's reasonable or go back to them and ask them to do something different. Usually it's reasonable. I know pretty well how HUD works on these things, so. And then other than the special projects I'd like to get approval to complete, that's my management report.
Very good. When do the inspectors come back?
When do they come back?
Yeah.
Sometime next year. I don't know exactly when yet, but we had a good enough score on our last inspection to where it'll be 26 before they come back.
That's great.
And that's, of course, after, battling through several failed inspections prior to us, and even one during us, when we first took over. I mean, it was only a week after we took over that they did one. I didn't have much time to fix anything.
Well, Steve, I'll say it again. You came here with big ambition and big promises, and I thought you'd get half of it done, and I think you've gotten more than all of it done. So
We've just been fortunate, things that have occurred, so.
you make it look easy
But
to deal with the
I
federal
do,
government.
my people and I do work hard on turning this around. It's not been an easy task by any stretch of the imagination. And when I met with you guys the first time on a Zoom meeting, I didn't really know the impact of what it was gonna be like, so
We're thankful for that.
Yeah.
So
I might not have kept coming.
well, I think we're in a meaningfully different place today than we were 8 years ago or whenever we
Whenever we
started
started.
this
When
journey.
you guys started, yeah. Because it'll be 4 years for me come September.
Yeah.
I started in 22, so.
Back to follow up on that flock thing, if I could, there are a lot of, there's a lot of dissent out there about that kind of resource. especially from I guess the advocate groups. And I know that folks in San Marcos are hearing a lot about that. They're violating civil rights and everything by reading license plates and all, and in Austin they are too. So just be prepared for that.
Yeah, well, I saw it in Tyler.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, we get
and
it a
that,
lot.
You know, that's just part of protecting our residents,
Right,
you know.
right. I mean, I'm all for it and everything, but I know that there are groups that do not like that kind of
Yeah.
scrutiny.
Anytime you do something like that where, you know, there's always gonna be some backlash. But we know how to deal with it. That's what I have for the management report. Did you want me to, I guess we can't cover,
Yeah. Well, we're done with management. We can go to new business. So we've got 3 items posted. I think we can take up A and C. So consider impossible action on the management agreement on Opal Point. So Steve, I don't know if you want to provide some context on the management agreement. I saw it was provided in the packet and we were able to review it in advance, so.
yeah, I sent y'all, actually provided this agreement to y'all prior to the last meeting. But because the transaction had not closed, we tabled it. And now that it is closed, I think it's appropriate for us to consider. We'll have a certain amount of work that we have to do on a monthly and quarterly basis. And we've got to manage the money, and then we've got a company that's a third party that's gonna do the compliance monitoring at Opal Point, and that will be paid by the Opal Point managing member, which is y'all. And so I will, you know, deal with them on that and pay them on a quarterly basis. And then the other thing is that, you know, I want to do something with the money that we have to make sure it's earning some money.
Yeah.
And so I'll have a certain amount of responsibility over and above managing the housing authority by doing that. So I've presented this management proposal.
So 2 questions for you. So we've got our agreement with your entity, our global agreement that has an expiration.
That's correct.
And then we've got a term of this contract, which is 3 months. At some point, are we gonna try to align?
Get them all where they all end at the
Yeah.
same time. We can't.
Yeah. I mean, it just would seem to be,
It would be easier that way.
yeah.
It just didn't work out because of the timing.
Yeah. Perfect. And then the other one I was gonna ask is, you know, it has the fee structure in the back.
Right.
And if I recall correctly, when we did Opal Point, there was, you know, an initial payment on the front end, and then there were kind of 2 structures for the annual.
Bless you.
God bless you.
Yeah, the annual payment. And one of them had to do with a management contribution. So there was one that was more related to a tax contribution and more related to a management contribution.
Correct.
Does the fee structure in here align with the management revenue, or is it in excess of that, and so it takes?
It's really both. It's what's there now and then what would come every year.
Okay, all right, those are mine too, so,
Because I still, and however that works out, I still have to manage that money. And as it gets, because it'll come to the Opal Point account, and then I have to manage it from there and report it to y'all.
okay.
And that's where the, you know, 3-month financials will come into play too. There's not enough activity to do a monthly financial, because it's the first money in and then annual money coming in, 4 payments out, the way I see it, for the compliance contract.
Yeah, those were my only 2 kind of just observations on the management agreement. I don't know if Mr. Kaufman or Salazar have any comments on?
No, I'm good with it.
So hearing none, do we have a motion for approval? Hopefully we get one.
Well, the motion on this has already been given for Opal, right?
No, this is to approve the management agreement between, for Opal Point. So it's to, so the project's closed, and this is so that Steve's company can manage that.
I make a motion to approve the Opal Point Management Agreement to work with MVP Management on behalf of the Kyle Housing Authority.
All right, we have a motion,
I'll second it.
and we have a second. With no opposition, the management agreement is approved. And I think on option B, we'll need to pin that to have some additional discussions with the city for, or not option B, but for item B, and then for item C, which is, oh, yeah, please, please.
I would like you to consider item B this evening.
All right.
I have a few comments for you.
Oh, no, perfect, I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
And before, so I just got like an opinion on the executive session deal. And it, it says certain individuals are legally allowed to be present beyond the members of the governing body. And they specifically said these can include the staff, legal counsel, and others if invited. Our presence is deemed necessary. So we don't even know what that topic is, right? I mean, we don't really know what's gonna be discussed in general session to not have that conversation. So I just don't see the presence of legal being there without the specific topic being addressed is warranted.
I mean, I would think, excuse me, I would think that like Mr. Langley, right, had mentioned that when we're seeking consultation with attorney, that it would be appropriate for whoever our attorney was to be there. But I know that what we're dealing with at this point looks like real property, and there's a real property exception to the Open Meetings Act that we could, I guess, conceivably do without counsel.
Our legal counsel's opinion is that you need to have an attorney present for any executive session item and any executive session discussion.
Yeah, to ensure that we stay within the confines of what's
Open
allowed.
Meetings Act, and that you're discussing things that are allowed to be discussed outside of an open meeting.
Okay.
That's the purpose of it, and if you're seeking legal counsel, the attorney needs to be there to provide you the legal counsel. So unfortunately, I don't have our city attorney with us this evening, but we could certainly arrange to have her here at your next meeting, explain those procedures to you, explain the legal issues with it, and then have any kind of discussion that you need to have.
All right.
Yeah, I think, and we've all been on boards, this is the first time this has ever come up, and I don't want to delay a discussion because of a possible concern. I don't know what that discussion is gonna be until we get back there. And then the decision can be made then if we have that discussion or not, right? But regardless of legal is there, we can say, no, I don't wanna have that discussion, or we don't wanna have that discussion until legal's here.
So I always love to challenge Brian. It's one of my favorite hobbies. But I did text an open records attorney, and they said someone has to be able to verify that no decision is being made and that doesn't comply with the limited exceptions to open meetings. So he's ending up being correct again, according to this source, so.
But you're not thinking-
Again, I want you to have any discussion that you need to have. You've been advised. I just want to make sure you know about that. That is the only person that allows you to have a discussion outside the Open Meetings Act. The attorney is the only one that can provide you that cover.
See, you learn something new every day, so. All right, well, with that.
Not my intent to do that.
Yeah, so I say we bring up, under new business, bring up item B, which is the prospective partnership with Stryker and Colterra and SPI, and open the floor to our city manager to provide some thoughts,
Yes, sir.
commentary.
Well, thank you and good afternoon again, everyone. I appreciate the time to visit with you about this. Daniel had provided a summary of some of the deals that you'd been looking at maybe a few weeks ago. I've lost track of the time, but maybe 4 to 6 weeks ago, he sent an email to me and asked if we had any concerns or thoughts about some of the deals that had been considered. And we took a look at those. I had an opportunity to meet with Daniel, the mayor, and some of our staff to review those. And we do have some concerns that I wanted to share with you. I certainly respect the Housing Authority Board's intent of trying to provide affordable housing. The city of Kyle supports that. But we'd like to have more of a strategy in place about what those affordable options should be and why. We're in the process of creating a strategic plan for our housing in the city. Hired a company called Housing Works, and they're in the process of doing that particular plan and identifying goals and strategies that we'd like to have as a city. And then what we'd like to do is work with the board to see how we can fold in your goals and the things that you're doing into the overall housing strategy for the city. The issue that we have with the deals that have been constructed is that they remove tens of millions of dollars in property values off of the tax rolls for both the city, the county, and of course the school district. That removes a significant tax that's being paid for those properties into all these different local government entities. And in our view, some of the benefits of the programs that have been put together in these deals don't provide a discernible public benefit in our mind. There are AMI limits in the number of units that are restricted by AMI. Some of those are market-based rents. And so what, in our opinion, some of the units that will be taken off the tax rolls will be converted to an affordable unit. We'll remove millions, tens of millions of dollars in appraised value off the tax rolls and not change the rents for the renters that are there in those apartments. So we have concerns with that and objections to that. And we'd like to, again, work with you on a strategy to look at those deals over time and see if there's a way to make them better, strengthen them, and make them more transparent for the public and help further an overall strategic goal. Tonight, we're asking you to consider suspending the closing of those deals or canceling those deals. We have looked at those agreements that have been forwarded to us by Daniel and Steve, and you do have the ability to suspend the closing of those deals. We would ask you to consider that so we have time to work with you on examining a structure that could perhaps be changed with those. So those are my comments. I'm happy to answer any questions. Again, we support the mission, what you're trying to do. We want to be a partner with you to understand how better to do that.
And, I mean, I appreciate that, the sentiment there, but are you aware of the true financial stability of the housing authority? Not today, 5 years, 10 years. I mean, we were literally trying to operate on low rents set by the government, on contracts that were set by the government in the 80s. Not very rewarding for the housing authority contracts. So we've been working through that struggle. We've come to the city, we've come to the county, we've asked for help, and we've got a little, and we definitely appreciate that. But it was not to the volume that the Kyle Housing Authority needed. The residents needed it. We needed it to provide decent, safe, and sanitary housing. We needed it to provide amenities. I mean, right now, the properties are bare bones. They need upgrades. They need amenities. They need things of that nature. And it just feels like because of a House bill that came up and got a lot of attention at the political level, a lot of things are being questioned. I get it. I understand that. But that's the only way we're operating. Without these contracts, we don't operate to the level we're operating now are providing that housing level to those residents. So if it doesn't happen now, we're just gonna be in the same predicament we're in a year or 2 years ago. The whole reason we were asked to be on this board, we're asked to be on this board by the previous mayor to turn it around. And we've been working on it with this gentleman here. He's done leaps and bounds, like Daniel said. And
So if we pause, right, which, and I trust, because that's what we asked the city attorney is, can we pause? So if we pause, I think that gives us time to schedule a meeting in compliance with state law, where we can have executive session, where we can, talk through some more of these things. If we do that, what are we risking on that side, right? So we're gonna ask the closing date to be moved back presumably a few weeks. At a minimum, it's just gonna take time to put all this together. And I wonder what that means to us if we push back the closing. So instead of trying to close at the end of June, we try to close at the end of July. I mean, not try to, but
I just think, based on delays we've seen with Opal, if we delay and we say July, the funding's not gonna be here till end of year next year, so we're not gonna capitalize on that till 2026 with a need that's still there. And again, not rushing through and pushing things through, but, it's not, and housing's a big, housing's bigger than rents.
Sure.
And I don't wanna get into that conversation too much either, but, we're trying to make those developments which were approved by the city affordable, right? So I know there's kickback on Opal, it's a luxury apartment community and things like that. Yes, it's there, it's got higher rents, but that doesn't mean a certain class of individuals or a certain income level shouldn't be able to live there. And we're coming in trying to make that affordable.
Again, if I could, I again, support the intent. I think you guys are trying to do important work. All we ask is that we have an opportunity to develop a strategy that makes sense with the overall housing needs that we have across the city, which currently we don't have a strategy to do that. These are deals that are coming to you. I know why the deals are coming to you. It helps fund some of your operations, which I respect. I know you're trying to do the work that's been asked of you on the board. But these developers and financing companies that are bringing these here, they're doing them because they make a lot of money for those companies. They're not doing them, in my estimation, because they actually provide an affordable product. That's a secondary benefit. It adds tens of millions of dollars to the value of those properties, and at the detriment of the local governments that are trying to provide services. So we want to work with you on that. I think what I would suggest is that we pause these, and I think we honestly need more than just a few weeks. I would suggest.
that was gonna be my next question.
Yeah, I would suggest at least 120 days. Give us a chance to finish that housing strategy, to come present that to you and get your feedback on that housing strategy and ask for your thoughts and expertise on those areas. And then ask the council to take that information and ultimately adopt a housing strategy that then you can use to say, here's a deal that matches this housing strategy and these objectives that we've all agreed on, and that makes sense for all of us. And that's what we would ask, because these, as constructed right now, they do not do those things. And we have been approached many, many times on housing deals at the city level, either through one of the housing finance corporations, which sometimes do those without any knowledge from any of us. We're in litigation on a couple of those deals. And we are approached on many other deals, and we've looked at them and determined that they were not attractive. They did not provide the right type of incentives. They did not provide the right type of affordable housing that was promised in those deals. And then they are coming now to housing authorities and offering different types of arrangements. So that's where we see it. I get you're trying to fund your operations. We want you to be able to do that. And I can't speak to what's been done in the past. I've been here a couple of years. I've never had a request from the Housing Authority for any funding. I want you to have what you need to do the job you're asked to do. So I think we just need to figure out, well, what is it that you need? How do we fund that? What are the right strategies to do it? And we want to be a partner with you. I know it perhaps doesn't seem that way, me being here tonight, but it's just the urgency of the matter. And again, I appreciate Daniel reaching out and asking, what do you think about these? Because you didn't have to do that, and you asked us. And I felt like I owed you to give you our perspective on the deals.
So if we delay, what does that mean for Stryker and Colterra? Are those being built,
One's built, one's,
built and occupied? Like, does the 120 days put those projects themselves in in a stress point, or do they not, right? I don't know how far they are in there.
the Windy Hills, which one's the Windy Hill one? At Basie?
Windy Hill, we are not doing.
Okay.
The Calterra deal is a completely constructed complex.
Yeah.
It's at Kohler's Crossing and Kyle Crossing, right next to I-35. It's a very nice complex, virtually brand new. It's a very expensive project to take off the rolls. And again, in my mind, questionable goals on what rents will be charged and how affordable are the really units going to be. Those are things we want to work to look at
So
with.
is Calterra, is it open and occupied?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It
So, okay,
is.
so it's owned, occupied, so if we push out 120 days, the project's still owned and is still occupied, right? So it's not as if this entity has a project that's sitting there that's vacant, and so they don't have the revenue coming in to support it. Is Stryker operating, or is it done?
Yeah, Stryker's already, that's already done.
Yeah.
That's
So those two.
closed, that's the one we got the money on.
I thought it was Opal Point.
Well, Stryker is open.
Oh, Stryker's Opal Point, so the other one's the SPI,
That's the Strand,
the Strand.
right,
And is the Strand occupied?
yes.
Okay, so those are both in a similar
The
situation.
Strand is actually a older property with lower rents. And,
And we pushed them to the 60% AMI on
Right.
that one, so that one's very,
yeah,
Very
they,
affordable.
Well,
and we don't make as much on it.
Right,
also-
I understand. And I think the AMI, the strategy we would recommend is calculating the AMI for Kyle or for our region, and then using that. What's being used is the Austin AMI, which is obviously much higher, and that's what allows companies to come in and charge the existing market-based rents because of the higher income of the Austin MSA area, but not really affect the overall rent. So it sounds good to have an 80% AMI, but that means it's a market-based unit,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah, because we're already at 80%.
At a very expensive cost to local governments providing service. So that's the issue, and for our end, what is the public purpose of that if it's not going to be affecting the market-based rent? So that's what we want to work on with you. 60% is probably a pretty good number, but I'd rather say, what is the agreed upon metric for AMI that we're going to target, and where do we want to be on that schedule? How many units do we need to have? How many units do we have? What's the overall strategy? Right now, I just don't have that, gentlemen. That's the,
But we can't-
that's the request.
yeah, the Strands program is 50 and 60. Between the two, half of their units would fall into one or the other.
Yeah, but Calterra is not.
No, Calterra is not, you're right.
But we,
It's,
you know.
it's 60 and 80.
That's right. And the 80% are market rents, right?
But AMI is a number to keep in perspective of how many people are traveling to Austin to work, right? So you got this, you got Kyle coming here, but you still got this up here. When the economy comes together, it can be 100% AMI discussion, I think. Calterra, perfect example. While we may not be able to get there with rents, a resident could pay a little more, right? Because what's there? What's within a mile? Elementary school, middle school, high school's a little further, ACC, right there at the corner. So you could live there without transportation, without some additional costs, and still have the community support the community businesses the ability to become self-sufficient and get into, you know, to where you're not needing to rely on that AMI number and live wherever you want to live. I've just been in housing a long time, so I look at it
Yeah,
in
and
full
again,
picture, and I don't, you know, when we get hung up on AMI or rents, that it's a much bigger conversation.
I agree with you, and I think there's more to certainly be discussed, and that's the reason we're asking for you to delay closing on these, so we can have that discussion. And I think let's put all those facts and figures together and come up with what do we think is the right strategy and why. Perhaps there's something here that makes sense, but on the face of it, when we look at it, we're very concerned.
So Brian, you and I talked about this. If the housing authority doesn't engage with these developers, what other avenue do the developers have to find a partner? And and do they have the ability to go and use a traveling HSA?
So they could, but the law has been corrected on that and now requires the city to, and I may be using the wrong term, a cooperation or consent agreement. The city would have to consent to the traveling HFC to do that work, which we might, under the right circumstances, with a strategy and a well-articulated plan. If we have a gap in our housing, which there are those, we know, but what is that gap? And if we were meeting that need in a meaningful way, we might be interested in doing a particular deal.
So
But there's no oversight of it from the
do you
city's
have
perspective.
concerns that if the Housing Authority of Kyle places a temporary moratorium on approving these, that developers will have the ability to immediately go partner with someone else who can approve it? Or,
I do not right
Okay.
now, no.
Because the law will go into effect January. And
Well,
these
that's
will-
on the traveling HFCs, not on in the program that the Housing Authority is involved in. There's two different programs,
Correct.
392 and 394. The one that House Bill 21 canceled is the traveling HFCs, the Pleasantons of the state that
Yeah.
went around and bought or partnered on 4 properties here in Kyle, several in San Antonio, Austin.
Yes, sir. We're in litigation on a couple of those matters, and if we reconvene and have a discussion in exec session, our city attorney can brief you on some of those issues.
Yeah, because those are going to move fast. Like, yeah.
I'm inclined to do a pause. I don't know if I'm at 120 days, but out of respect for, the position that the city has, I'm open to expeditiously scheduling our next meeting to talk about this, but
But we're in the middle of summer. I mean, when are we all going to get together, realistically? August? September? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know I'm on vacation. I know Michelle said she had something. David's shaking his head.
I may,
Yeah, it's just not that easy. We're a 5-member board.
Well, one other thing we need to look at is we need to get a legal opinion about the fact that we've already entered into these agreements, and how is that gonna impact the housing authority if we go back and say, we want you to pause this and they say no, which they can do.
Again, our legal counsel has opined that you can do that.
Yeah, so
Again, I'm not
to
the attorney,
answer,
so, but I'm just
to
relaying that
answer
message.
your question, Daniel, I don't think we can make a decision tonight about anything without getting a legal opinion first. I mean, I understand what you want to do, but can we do it without having some,
Well, I think the mayor needs to be here. I mean, he set the board, so,
The mayor supports the opinion I'm giving you.
yeah, it'd been nice if he was here, though.
Couldn't make it tonight, I get it. Like you said, summer is difficult. We're happy to meet anytime.
Well, that's challenging, though.
how far into
understand.
your plan of determining, what your affordable housing plan is gonna be? How far into it are you?
We've started that process. We probably need about 60 days to finish that. So and it's a public process that we go through with a city council, and then we'd have a meeting with this board. It's not an overnight thing, and nor should it be, in my opinion. I mean, it's an important discussion involving significant dollars for everyone. We want to make sure we do it right. That's, again, our request. I know it's a tough place to be as the board. I do understand the position I'm perhaps putting you in, but I wanted to share with you our thoughts on it. And again, I do appreciate you guys asking the question about what do we think, and we wanted to share with you this. It's a challenge for us.
Just hard to swallow. I mean,
I
we
understand.
work so hard
Yeah.
for technically an organization the city didn't even know existed under their purview, 7 years ago. And
Yeah.
we're turning this thing around on a slow ship, and to be asked to halt on funding that we need. I mean, have you physically walked Pete Dressen or Charles Young? Have you talked to the residents? Huge need. I'd encourage you to do that.
Right.
That's where you're gonna get the information. You can't get the information from people sitting on this board. You gotta go talk to the residents. You gotta go talk to the residents that are living in it every day.
Yeah.
And they're not gonna care about AMI.
Fair enough. I have not done that, and fair point. Be great to have some time to do that. And I would suggest that, 120 days is not really going to change the financial situation that you're in. Gives us a chance to make informed decisions, which is what we endeavor to do.
But it will, because we've already got projects underway. And Steve was preparing to go into phase 2 of the painting job at Pete Dressen, so we have
Well,
a half-painted project now.
we need
You
to
closed on, again, I'd like to see your budget. I'd like to see what those things are. I would be happy to be a partner with you, but there's no information here online. I don't know what your projects are, what you're trying to do, what your needs are. I know you closed on the Opal deal. You've got significant funding coming in from that.
But those questions haven't come before now. And the Housing Authority's been here since
Yep.
the 80s.
I get it.
That's why I'm struggling. Why are we here now?
Well, you asked me what I thought.
Well, yeah.
So I'm telling you.
Yeah, but
And
Like-
the pace of the deals that are coming, they're coming to you for a reason. These developers, the folks managing these properties, it's an income-based decision for them.
I agree, but the tax dollars that, like the traveling ones aren't leaving the city. That, the benefit still stays here. It's staying within Kyle. The traveling one, that money, every incentive's leaving the area, but, yeah.
We just asked for some time to work through that with you again. That's what we're looking for.
I think we hold and talk to Darren and see what his thoughts are.
All right. How about this? Why don't we take up option C while my mind spins a little? And we can revisit item B before we adjourn for the day. So,
Okay.
all right. Item C,
Item C, I gave you all a schedule of what I wanted to do. It's 3 things. The biggest part of it is to complete the exterior carpentry and painting of the 13 buildings at Pete Dressen. We've completed 3 of them, but I'd like to get started on the remaining ones. And that's at a cost of $210,465. They're replacing all of the exterior siding, trim, exterior doors. We're putting a hardy board type product on all the exterior walls. And keep in mind that everything on these buildings is original. It's 50 years old. Because they were built in 75, so. It's amazing that they've,
Steve, don't say,
Held up.
don't say 1975 was 50 years ago, okay? So, it was like 20 years ago, right?
75 is 50 years old. At any rate, that's the one item on the list. And then the other one is to install the flock camera systems at both entrances. That's $11,300. And then I've got accounts payable that I'd like to clear on Charles Young Public Housing of $54,946.88. That'd be a total of $276,711.88.
And is that this amount, the 275, that's the totality of the Opal Point?
Well, that's
Uh,
there's still about 200,000 left in the Opal Point.
Okay, so this is a
It's-
partial.
It's a little over half.
I think it's a good list, so especially item 3. I think clearing our AP is,
Yeah, I've been carrying some of that, and then some of it's just vendors. Most of it's payroll reimbursements and management fees.
Based on some conversations that came up, though, I don't know if we're ready for flock yet. I think we need to maybe look into that a little more, on the personal information aspect of it.
You think,
I think it's a good idea, but there have been issues that have come up,
really,
yeah.
on your properties?
Yeah.
No kidding.
And legally, you're probably okay, but I don't think we're at a place here to say we are.
Well,
well, we're having another meeting in about 2 weeks, so we can
Okay.
always
Yeah.
push flock
Yeah.
2 weeks out,
So
so.
that's why I was gonna make a motion to approve the project improvements renovations, to continue with that, and to clear the payables for Charles Young.
All right, we have a motion,
And I'd second that.
a second, no opposition, so we are approved as amended on new business number C. Well, I was hoping that was gonna take a little longer before we got back to new business B, so,
Well, you were talking, noticed that, thinking.
well, yeah. I'm inclined to do a delay, to keep the pressure on the project. I could see doing 30 days, right? To make sure that we get our secondary meeting, which should give some cover and, should give the capacity to have conversations, and as long as we're making active progress, I think that's good. So, I'd be amenable to a 30-day, and you'll have to help me with the legal term that was in our contract. A 30-day suspension, knowing that we have a commitment from the city for a subsequent meeting, an executive session to talk more in detail about this item and the surrounding legal and real estate issues pertaining it, so.
And just to confirm, that meeting will come before the 120-day plan development. Like, the meeting with legal, you, mayor, and others will occur within the next few weeks versus 120 days.
Sure, we'll poll you and get a date immediately, provided you're available, and I can get you together. Absolutely. I can certainly do that in 30 days if you want to do that. I'm here every day, so I just need to find a time where I can get all of you here.
Perfect. If I did a motion for 30 days, would that offend you?
Well, no, it wouldn't offend me. I do appreciate you guys thinking of it. It's a short window, for us. I certainly won't have my housing strategy done by then. If the interest is just get an extension so you can have some more discussions and decide kind of where you are, that's fine. We just won't be able to get all the way to the area
Right.
I was talking about. So perhaps we have a 30-day extension. We look at this, come back and talk about it, and you could decide if you wanted to do another 90 days or whatever it might be. We could certainly look at that. It gives you more options, I suppose.
All right. I'm gonna make a motion and we'll see where this goes. So, under new business B, I move that we suspend for 30 days the closing of Colterra and SPI projects in order to have subsequent meetings with the city of Kyle. And I will pause for a second.
Second.
And we have a second. Is there any opposed? Hearing none opposed, we have approved our 30-day suspension. All right. With that, it is 6:26, and I move that we adjourn. Hearing none, no opposition, we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
I got some